my research, what I found is that the inability or frustration or success around manifestation always boils down to your level of deservingness of the outcome that you're looking for. So in terms of the way this works with neuroplasticity is that you have to perform a certain action in the material world to bring what you want into your life. To perform that action with confidence, you have to have a certain thought process that tells you, if I go dating, I'm going to meet someone really nice and be able to settle down and have a family. Versus, if I go dating, I'm going to meet a series of guys who are going to treat me really badly and it's going to damage my self-esteem even further. You can see the path that, those two people are going to go down. And it's the same for asking for a raise, asking for promotion. Behind that thought process will be a set of beliefs that may be conscious, but may be subconscious as well. So you do not even know that that's what you believe about yourself that is starting off the thought process that is either preventing you or allowing you with trust and faith, to take a healthy risk. If you're able to dig down to that underlying belief, that's when you can do really powerful work to affect your manifestation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because I need them. Because being around successful entrepreneurs who are pushing, who are driving, who are doing amazing things gives me that extra little motivational, inspirational boost in the morning every day to help me go off and accomplish great things too. And I hope that this video gives you that inspiration as well. So today, let's learn how to manifest things into your life. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is just ask with Rhonda Byrne.
To manifest something to deliberately manifest, you have to want it, but then you can't have any thoughts of, well, it's not here yet. Because the moment you say it's not here yet, what does law of attraction do? It's not here yet.
And it's constantly not here yet.
Yeah.
So say this again. How do we really manifest something? We put it out there, we speak it or we think it, but then we detach from it?
Yeah. And, here's the thing. We so don't realize our own amazing power that we can just ask for something and it will be given to us.
Now, here's what the criticism online is for The Secret,
okay,
or the law of attraction,
okay,
or anyone talking about manifesting.
Okay.
This is what I'll see people, and this is typically people in lack, or maybe people with more of a negative frustration because they don't have what they want. They will say, or these are comments that I'll see, you can't just think something and expect it to appear without putting in the hard work, without action, without consistency. The world just doesn't work like that. When you see comments like that, or people say this, how would you respond to someone thinking that or saying that?
Well, I don't, I always kind of feel that everybody has the right to think what they want and believe what they want. And I know it's not the case. I remember Lester Levinson said something so incredible. He was a wonderful teacher. He's not alive anymore. But he was very simple in the way that he talked. And he told these students that if you want something, I could lock you up in a room and padlock that room, and you ask for that, and you have it, right? You have it now, and it will come.
Really?
Yeah, it will come, and nothing in this world can stop it. So,
wow.
Right?
What are some examples in your life where you've thought or spoken about something you've desired or wanted, and it has come effortlessly? Or maybe an example of people that have written about their success stories. Is there anything you can think of?
Right.
Where maybe for a long time they'd struggled in manifesting or attracting what they wanted, but they started to apply this and really believed it, and that thing came to them.
Right. Well, when I did a book signing, and I got to talk to all of these different people, and every single person at that book signing told me about how their life had completely changed.
Wow.
And what was amazing was, so somebody would say that they were working, I don't know, cleaning a bank or something, and they wanted to have their own sound studio. And that is what they decided to manifest. And they visualized and visualized, and they felt it, and they wouldn't allow any thoughts of doubt to enter their mind. And they are now running one of the top sound studios in LA.
Wow.
But not just that, they met their perfect partner. They bought their dream house. They have, 2 children, or they travel. Every single thing that they wanted, they received. And that was what was so amazing about all of these people when I was signing books. It wasn't just one thing in their life, but these people were amazing. They did gratitude all of the time, or they did affirmations all of the time. And they had a complete change within themselves, to be kind, to other people. And so they would think positively. They were aware when negative thoughts came, and they would stop them in their tracks. And so for me, I think the biggest manifestation for me was The Secret.
Yeah.
Because I was a mother of 2 children in Melbourne, Australia. I had this night where Henny Penny, the sky fell in. Everything in my life completely collapsed, right? And I had a huge awakening that night, pardon me, and realized all of this and how incredible we are and what we can do and what mastery we have over the world. And there and then I looked out at the world and I'm like, no one knows this. No one knows this. And so I was determined that I would find a way to take this to the world. I had no idea what shape or form it would take but that night I determined that is what I would do. And so eventually a whole team were gathered. I had a production company at that point, and everybody might think, oh, if you had a production company, it's so easy for you to make a documentary. Aha, but let me tell you, there's a snag. I was $2 million in debt.
Really?
That production company was $2 million in debt, and my accountant told me, you're going to be broke in 30 days and lose everything.
Wow.
Lose everything. And to this day, I don't know how it didn't happen. I do know, because I didn't allow that thought. I only allowed the thought of taking this to the world, and nothing else mattered.
Wow.
But getting this out into the world.
Rule number 3 is feel the fullness with Eckhart Tolle.
Jesus already, in one sentence, one could say, told us the essence of manifesting and how it works. And he said, whenever you pray for something that you want, believe that you already have it and it will be given to you.
Yes.
There's the key. Now, the important thing is, he did not say, believe that you will have it. He said, believe that you already have it. Now, this may not be immediately clear to people. How do I do that? How do I believe that I already have it when I know that I don't have it?
Right. How do you get that belief of having it before knowing, feeling, tasting, smelling the thing that you want?
Yes. So you feel the thing. It is already a mental reality in your mind. How do you feel now that you have it in your mind? How does it feel? And this feeling is really where the power of manifestation lies. But what is that feeling? Because that feeling of having it already and feeling this deep sense of satisfaction is really connecting with the deeper power within yourself, which is the power where all sense of aliveness originates there. It's a deeper sense of aliveness that comes from consciousness itself. So you might believe, it might differ from person to person. One person might think, okay, what I want is a big house with a overlooking the ocean or whatever, and then you feel yourself, you're already there, experiencing that. Another person might think, well, what I want is to have this great a company that does good things in this world, and I'm at the end. How does that feel? But you might find that the feeling is actually basically always the same. Whether your mind says, "That's a house overlooking the ocean." Now, why? Or the other person says, "Well, this is the company that I'm the head of, that's doing great things in this world." The feeling is basically the same feeling. And the feeling is a feeling of fullness of life.
Yes.
Of completeness. That is power. So when you feel this feeling of fullness and then you associate it with a mental image, that is the power of manifestation there. But the feeling itself is beyond the mental image and is beyond whatever form you are able to manifest in this world, because that is the feeling of the inherent sense of aliveness that comes when you go deeper into yourself and experience the presence that you are. And this to know yourself as the presence is inherently joyful and powerful.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 4 is overcome your limitations with Deepak Chopra.
There's this feeling of unworthiness. Like, I would love to have abundance, but I don't really feel worthy of thriving. Can you talk about that a little bit? And is that really coming from our alignment with source and soul and I am, or is that more of an ego thing?
No, there's a difference between self-image and self.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, self-image. I use this expression: we sacrifice ourselves for our selfie. Okay, so your selfie becomes your identity, not yourself. And what is your selfie, your self-image trying to do? It seeks validation. It feels either inferior or superior. And it is full of fear. That's what these people have who say, I don't deserve it. They've been conditioned. Somebody at a long time ago said, you're not beautiful enough, or you're not successful enough, or you'll never make it, and or you'll never be such and such. And that creates what is called a limiting belief in the mind. But there are ways to actually overcome that limiting belief, because once you start questioning your beliefs, you say, is it really true that I will never be president of the company? Is it really true that my husband or wife doesn't love me? Is it really true that I'll never be able to lose weight? Whatever your idea of what your goal is. Then you can also say, how sure am I if this is true? And the more you reflect on this, and you say, what is this doing to me? Why is it limiting me? And what is the opposite of this limiting belief? Now, this is the basics of what people call cognitive therapy. And now there's something also called awareness-based cognitive therapy. And there's a woman who wrote a book called, I forget the book's name, but she simplified this in a very nice way. It's basically, how do you overcome limiting beliefs? And you do that through reflective inquiry. You do that by mindfulness meditation. But you also do that by going beyond the thought process, because it's our thoughts that are limiting us. If you go in meditation, in the Kabbalah and all these great, amazing, mystical traditions, that's the realm that they call Ein Sof, or the The Buddhists call it the Dharmakaya. Once you're at that understanding that that's what you just used, Ein Sof is source, is the theosphere, if you want to call it, not the noosphere. The noosphere is the mind. The theosphere is the realm of the soul, or if you don't like the word soul, fundamental identity.
Rule number 5 is visualize with Mel Robbins.
Not only do I want you to close your eyes and picture yourself going back to the dorm room. Notice I'm closing my eyes. It's because manifesting is a habit for me. And when I manifest, I get in it, man. I close my eyes. I go into my mind. I am literally in my imagination there. And I not only can see myself doing the work, I can feel it. You can feel what it's like to walk into that dorm. You can feel what it's like to sit down. You can feel the heavy backpack hit the table. You can feel yourself crack open that book. You can feel yourself sitting at that desk and the desk light. And you can also even feel what it's like, can't you? As the sun starts to set and it gets darker outside and the light on your desk starts to get brighter and take things over, you can just put yourself right there. And the feeling is super important because, again, manifesting is mind, body, spirit. We got to get your nervous system involved. We've got to make you feel like you're at the scene. One of the reasons why feeling it is so important is because it magnifies the imagery in your mind. And when your mind rehearses something, here's what's cool about your brain. Your brain doesn't know the difference between you studying for that test or you doing the work to start that business or get healthy or put yourself back out there or heal your trauma or save the money to get that house that you want, or whatever it is that you're visualizing. Your brain doesn't know the difference between you visualizing those things and you actually doing them. In your mind, it's the same. So it's almost like a training run for a marathon. You are building a muscle that helps you win when you take the actions. It's so cool. And so you not only want to feel what it's like to study for that test, put yourself at the scene. You also want to feel a sense of pride that you're doing the work. And the pride piece is really important because the pride piece acts almost like a booster. It amplifies the memory imprint. When you bring this, wow, there I am, I'm doing the work, I'm proud of myself, I'm staying in, I'm putting in the extra work. Somebody said no and I kept on going. I didn't stop when the first venture capital firm said they wouldn't invest. There I am investing again. When you feel this sense of pride in yourself, it supersizes the imprint and the rehearsing. And so it's a super important part of the feeling. Not only feel the steps, feel the pride that you're doing it. This is so important that I want to give you yet another example. Let's say that your bucket list, something on your bucket list is to run a marathon. For me, it was on my bucket list when I was a young mom to run the New York City Marathon. Now, what's interesting is I applied, I got a number, and when I won this number out of a lottery system with the New York City Marathon, I was a brand new mom. I was totally out of shape. I was not at all in any kind of a place to run the New York City Marathon. Now, here's the thing. I used visualization to help me lower my fear and my excuses. Because when I got the number, I did not have a lot of time. If I had been a person who was not visualizing, I probably would have said, I don't have enough time to train. I'm not ready. I can't do this. All the excuses would have come in. But instead, I used visualization. Now, how do you use visualization for, say, a marathon? You do not want to visualize crossing the finish line. That is how you visualize incorrectly. Luckily, I knew how to visualize at this moment in my life. You need to visualize yourself going from 0 to preparing to run that race. So what does that mean? That means you need to visualize, there I am. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I don't feel like getting up, but I'm getting up and I'm putting on my sneakers and it's dark out and I don't feel like going for a run, but there I am going out the door alone in the cold. Wow, I'm pretty proud of myself because I'm training. Oh, here's another thing you could visualize. I'm on a training run, it's mile 7 and it starts to rain and I keep going. Wow, I'm wet and I'm still running. I'm proud of myself because I'm out there training. It's mile 11 and my earbuds just lost battery. I don't have any more music. I got 5 more miles to go. I'm out here for almost another hour. And I continue going. And I continue going. And I see myself completing that 16-mile training run. And I allow myself to not only feel what it feels like to push through that moment when those earbuds run out of battery, but I also feel proud of myself for pushing through. That's how you prepare yourself for the thing that you need to do, because it removes the obstacles that would stop you from pushing through.
And rule number 6, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is take control with Bob Proctor.
When I was 26, I had a man that sat down with me and he said, "Why don't you change the way you're living?" It never entered my mind that I could. And looking back and thinking about it, I think there's all kinds of people wandering the planet. There's all kinds of athletes that are not getting the results they want, and they don't know they can change them.
Right, only one person can change.
There's only one person in the whole universe that can change Bob, and that's Bob.
Yeah.
There's only one person who can change Dave, and that's Dave. Now, we get inspired by other people, we get help from other people, but we've got to do it ourselves. And he gave me Think and Grow Rich, and he said, if you do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Well, I didn't believe that, but he was so adamant about it, I believed he believed it. And so I started to listen to him. And I set a goal. I wanted some money. I wanted $25,000. Now, this was in 1961, so it was more money then than it is today, but I didn't even know anyone with $25,000. He said, listen, write it on a card, keep reading the book, keep doing what I tell you. So I started to hear people talking about earning money, and there was one guy said, there's good money cleaning floors. You should clean floors. Well, I wasn't proud. I'd clean floors. And he said, but you should do it for yourself, not for somebody else. So he told me where I could buy a used floor machine, some buckets and mops, but I had to borrow $1,000. Well, I was at the point where nobody wanted to touch me with money. And I often say, I wouldn't have lent it to me. Right. Because I wouldn't pay it back. Not that I didn't want to, I just couldn't. But I found a guy and he lent me the $1,000.
When you borrow, excuse me, because I have a question, because I know you. When you borrowed that $1,000, because you owed people money already, you had explained that to people, you were just finding yourself. But did you have a different feeling about when you borrowed this $1,000 that quite possibly you were actually going to be able to pay this back this time?
Do you know something? If I hadn't had that feeling, I wouldn't have got the money. I got it from a guy, I knew his name, Al Kuiper. He was running, and I didn't know him, he had a trust company. It was like a bank on Danforth Avenue in Toronto. And I went in, I read a book where it says, go to one bank, and then we'll give you, go to another one. Well, I ended up sitting in his office, and he said, what do you want this money for, son? And I told him I was going to build a cleaning company. It was going to be big. I had a dream. And I had to explain it all to him. He said, I think you'll do it. I'm going to lend you the money.
Faith.
But I knew when I was doing this, I had a picture, I had a dream, you see?
Yep.
And within a year, I was earning $175,000 a year. I had my billing up to $15,000 a month working for myself. In less than 5 years, we were working in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. I had my own company opening offices all over the place.
First, you see the need to be a victim. Identity also, unfortunately, is a form of ego. Because any conceptual identity is a form of ego. And even though you seem to be amply justified in having a victim identity because of the things that other humans did to you, you yourself are finding yourself in a kind of prison that created by your mind. So there's no denial of that bad things happen to you, yes. Now, question is, how do you exit this mental prison? the first step is perhaps to see that unconscious human beings in the grip of their own conditioning, their own ego, they have virtually no free will. When you are unconscious, you are controlled by the mind patterns that are lodged in your psyche. You cannot really speak of free will by somebody who has zero awareness, and yet their entire makeup is conditioning from the past. So the famous phrase used by Jesus in connection with forgiveness on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Now, these two interesting, these points put together, forgive them. Why forgive them? They know not what they do. In other words, if he had spoken these days, using our terminology, he probably would have said, they are completely unconscious. Because that's what it means, they know not what they do. They are completely unconscious. So when you see nobody can act beyond their level of consciousness, then you see that it's almost like, it becomes almost like the evil that was perpetrated becomes almost like a natural phenomenon. That is, like you've been hit by lightning or something, or lived in very unpleasant climatic conditions that injured you near a volcano. My dad had problems with anger, huge outbursts of anger quite frequently. It was living next to a volcano that could erupt at any moment. And he could not help it. It was impossible. There was no possibility of being different. And so these humans are run by unconscious conditioning, usually goes back to their childhood and what happened there. I know why my father was angry. I realized much later that it all originated in his childhood, the reasons why he was so angry. And also, for a while, I felt a resentment towards that. And only when I was able to awaken out of egoic consciousness, I saw that there's nothing that he could have done differently because there wasn't enough awareness. Now, when you see that, then you don't personalize or you don't create an identity for other humans out of their unconsciousness, because in essence, that's not who they are. The recognition that there's first recognition, then step one, you recognize that no human can act beyond their conditioning in the absence of awareness. If there's awareness, they can transcend their conditioning. And then they begin to become conscious of their own conditioned mental-emotional, dysfunctional mental-emotional patterns, yes. So they can't help it. So that's already a useful step in forgiveness, but you may not yet be able to arrive at full forgiveness because of that. Before I continue with that, does that mean then, a question may arise in your mind, does that mean then humans are not really responsible for what they do? If they are unconscious, how are they responsible? And does that mean then that we shouldn't punish them for what they do? If they commit a crime, are they not guilty? That's an interesting question. The unconsciousness that operates in human, even if you are able to forgive a human, and we'll go more fully into that in a minute, even if you're able to forgive a human for their transgressions or whatever they did, this does not mean, and even though the human is not responsible for their unconsciousness, and yet it is built into the structure of human life, they still need to suffer the consequences of their unconsciousness.
Let's just say that lack is ingrained in there. You got the story, you lived on the streets, you lost everything, you got betrayed, your business partner took everything, took your wife, you got the story in the half,
Yes.
okay? Okay, you got to start telling the new story of the future, right? You got to believe in that future more than you have to believe in the past. So how do you do that? You only believe in the past when you feel the emotions of the past. The only time you're going to believe in the future is when you feel the emotions of the future, right? Okay? So in order for us to change a belief or perception about ourselves and our lives, we have to make a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carries a level of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body. And your body literally has to respond to your mind. That the choice that you're making to change in that moment becomes a moment in time that you never forget. And here's the key.
Physically.
Physically. The stronger the emotion you feel when you make that choice, the more you'll remember the decision. Okay, so then how do we down-regulate that old belief? If the trauma created an emotional quotient of 6 or 7, then your decision to change your beliefs got to be a 9.
Right.
And you got to come out of your resting state, and that moment has to define you. You could say, I know exactly where I was, the time of day it was, who I was with, when I made my mind up to change, right? Because you created a long-term memory. Long-term memories are created from strong emotion.
Yes.
Right. But if the amplitude of that emotion is greater than the betrayal, boom, the body starts responding to the mind, and you're actually giving your body a taste of the future emotionally. So you brand your...
What's possible.
No, your body's actually getting a taste of that future event.
It's experiencing the future now.
Now, exactly. Big explosion in the quantum field. Big explosion. So the side effect of that is if you combine that clear intention with that elevated emotion, you're basically remembering your future, and it looks no different than remembering your past. Think neurologically within the circuits of that memory and feel within the emotions of that new belief and watch your life begin to change, because nothing changes in our life that we change. And when we change our energy, we change our life. So now the experiment all of a sudden is no longer based on it being hard or trying or wishing or wanting or hoping. That's what we do when we're in lack or separation. It's about change. So then when we finally realize, in order for us to become abundant, we have to overcome the old personality. And that's 95% of who we are, right?
Yes.
So then the side effect of the beginning of this process is a lot of discomfort. It is a lot of discomfort because you're stepping outside the known into the unknown, and now you can't predict.
It's scary.
No, you'd rather hold on to your lack.
The pain, the suffering.
Rather tell the story of that. At least it makes you feel something that's familiar. When you step outside and you're saying, I'm not going to complain about money any longer. I'm not going to complain about I don't have any. I'm not going to judge other people who do. I'm not going to say I can. I'm not worthy. It's never going to work. All those things got to go. I'm not going to feel lack. I'm not going to feel unworthy. I'm not going to feel separation. I'm not going to feel resentment. These are the things that are keeping my reality the same. Now it's no longer about abundance, it's about who you become. So the overcoming process becomes the becoming process. And so many people come to this work, they want abundance, they want healing, they want a new relationship, they want a new career, they want the mystical, but really they want wholeness. And
they want healing, they want peace.
They want wholeness.
Because they feel unwhole.
Well, when you're in lack or you're in separation, you're not whole. Imagine feeling so much wholeness that's impossible to want. That's what we're working on with people. Then you can really enjoy a sunset. Then you can really enjoy a meal. Then you can really enjoy your friends. Then you can. I talk to people that are very abundant. I mean, in the billions abundant, and so many of them say, we are in misery.
Because they're not whole.
We're in agony because they can't enjoy life anymore. That's what they want. I mean, people want abundance to be able to enjoy life. They want to be able to do whatever they want with whoever they want, as many times as they want, wherever they want. That's freedom, right? Or people want abundance. The sponsoring thought is really they want freedom, right? Or whatever their sponsoring thought would be, right?
I used to be the kind of person that had zero boundaries. I mean, nada, nothing, zilch, nothing. In fact, there were periods of my life where it was worse than zero because I was so attached in romantic relationships that I literally would become like a human amoeba in my romantic relationships. I mean, I was like, literally, if it's possible to have negative boundaries, meaning you like somehow go in a totally different direction, that was me. And so if somebody as insecure and as emotionally attached in relationships and as people-pleasing as me can figure out how to identify, communicate, and uphold boundaries in my life, you can learn how to do this too, okay? And so that's what we're gonna unpack in this video. So I think a big question, because a lot of people talk about boundaries, they know they need boundaries, but they don't have good boundaries. Why is that? Well, the reason why we don't have good boundaries is because none of us were trained how to set them. I mean, I want you to think about your childhood for a minute. Your childhood with your caregivers, your parents, your grandparents, whoever, it is naturally an imbalance, right? Like when you come into this world, you are born into a particular family. You're born into a particular culture, religion, economic situation, a place in the world, a race, like a religion. And based on where you were born and to whom you were born into in terms of the family structure, there were all kinds of rules that you had to follow. And if you did not follow those rules, there were consequences. And so can you imagine if you, as like an 8-year-old, started to try to express boundaries? Literally, like mom cooks a pot roast dinner, and you cross your arms. You're like, mom, this is a boundary cross for me. I have decided that I am no longer eating meat. Your mom would probably go, guess what, youngster? You not eating dinner is a boundary crossing for me. You're not getting up from this table until you finish what's on your plate. And so saying boundaries when you're little doesn't really work for the adults in your life. And that's why you never learned how to do it. And by the way, your parents were probably never taught how to have boundaries either. And so I want to start at the very beginning, okay? Where do you even begin? Where do you even begin when it comes to learning how to set healthy boundaries, okay? So first things first, where you're going to begin is you're going to start to think about boundaries in a completely new way, okay? The number one mistake that we all make, I made it, you're making it right now, is when you think about boundaries, you are thinking about other people first, okay? You're thinking about boundaries and believing that your boundaries are rules in a relationship that define respect and that somehow your boundaries are going to control or change someone else's behavior. That is the exact opposite of how you should be thinking about boundaries, okay? I didn't realize this. This is why I was lousy at setting boundaries, because I thought that my boundaries control what other people do. No, 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 no. So how do I want you to think about boundaries, okay? Boundaries are rules that you create about your own behavior. And I'm going to take this a little bit further now. What I'm actually talking about is I'm going to help you identify situations, people, any kind of experience you might find yourself in where your boundary defines what you're going to do in reaction to something that's going on around you, okay? Because I think what I'm seeing a lot of online are two things. It's this sort of quick Instagram advice where it's like, you've crossed a boundary, you're a toxic person, you're no longer in my life. When the truth is, the behavior that we really need to be policing is our own. The opportunity for growth and the way that boundaries can support you is in looking at what you need to change when it comes to certain people, certain situations, or certain choices and habits that you have, okay? And we're going to unpack this, don't worry. But I really want to kind of land here, because if you start to turn the focus back on yourself, you're going to have a much easier time with applying the 5 rules around boundaries that I'm about to teach you. Okay, so rule number 1, always focus on yourself, what you will and what you won't allow, okay? Always focus on yourself, what you will and won't allow. Do not try to control other people, because you can't, okay? Think about boundaries as guardrails that you set for yourself. And I'm going to give you a quick example. We all have that relative that loves to hear them talk about politics, right? Like, it's super annoying. They're constantly going on and on about politics, okay? And you want this relative of yours to stop talking about politics around you, okay? What if I told you that expressing a boundary with a relative, telling them to stop talking about politics around you, will probably only increase the likelihood that they're going to? And so the better way to think about boundaries is not, what do I need to say to Uncle Joe so that Uncle Joe does not talk about politics around me? That's not how you do this. You don't go, Uncle Joe, you're crossing a line with me. You're crossing a boundary. I need you to stop talking about politics. Let's just role play that for a minute. How do you think that's going to work? That ain't going to work very well, is it? No, because then Uncle Joe's going to flare up, and then you're going to flare up. And now, instead of having a boundary that you held, you've got a gigantic mess that's been made. Instead, you got to think about that boundary with you, okay? What are you going to do? And there are 2 examples of this. You could decide that if that relative starts sounding off about politics, that is a boundary for you, and you will remove yourself from the room. That's an example of how you can set a boundary. Another example is you could say something to Uncle Joe, and you could say, hey, Uncle Joe, I love you, and I'd love to have you over for dinner. But if you plan on talking about politics when we're together, we're not going to have dinner. You have defined what you will tolerate and not. You didn't say, do not talk about politics. You said, I love you. If we're going to have dinner together, I'd love to have you over for dinner, but not if we're talking politics. You've given Uncle Joe the option to talk politics or not. You've just made it clear where you stand, which is, we're not having dinner together if you opt to do that. Do you see how that's about your behavior? You've made it clear what you're going to do, but Uncle Joe now has a choice to either respect the boundary or not.
Certain actions take place, you do things, you know they're not the optimal things to do, but you can't help it. It's something acts through you. There seems to be some power there that makes you do things that you know are not right or not good for you, and yet you can't stop it. That seems to be the case. And that, of course, is often the case with people who are with you. It might be many different areas of your life, but this is also the case with addictions. For example, people who are addicted to a certain substance, or who are addicted to eating too much or drinking. There's something that overpowers them in you that seems to obscure the awareness, or the awareness is pushed to the side, and this thing, this powerful thing, does it anyway. And again, my answer is a little bit similar to what I said to the first questioner tonight. The power of presence needs to grow in you so that it is strong enough it's not willpower, because willpower is not the best way of dealing with these things, but it's what I'm talking about could sometimes be confused with willpower, but willpower includes the application of a force to hold something down. Let's say if your addiction is to indulge in intoxicating beverages, in other words, booze is the British word, then and you can feel it. It comes on. There it comes. The bottles are there. There they are. And you feel you have to go there, and you have to reach out, and you have to pour yourself a drink. Now, when you're not aware at all, you don't even know what you're doing. You're so unconscious that you're already holding the drink and you're drinking. Then at that point, you even know that you're drinking. The same with food. I've spoken to people who have had addictions to food. They often say they wake up when they've already eaten. In the middle of the night, they've already unconsciously gone to the fridge, taken out the chocolate cake, and then they're already halfway through the chocolate cake when suddenly they're like, what am I doing? But so awareness comes in at a very late point. Willpower would be to hold an urge down. Let's say they have the pull, or even what the example you gave, you want to turn on the TV, and it's not right because I'm not here for that, and he actually told us not to do it. But I can't help it. I have to go. I can't. No, willpower. You would say, I'm going to hold this down. I'm not going to do it. And I can feel the urge, but you're holding it down. When you hold things down, often after a while, an explosion happens. It's like a boiling kettle. Can't hold it for that long, and then you have some kind of rationalization in your mind. You'll do it anyway. The mind will give you a reason.
I think there are many modalities that work for trauma. What I've discovered is that insight never really changes behavior. You can see that your father was overbearing or was an alcoholic, or you could see all these different things, like you could come up with the insight of all these different things. The problem that I see with people is then they tend to excuse their change by saying, I had a rough childhood, that's why I am the way I am. They're excusing their present position. So, and again, trauma is a difficult thing, but for me, the person who's living by the identity in their life that they were traumatized as a child or whatever it is, or they've had a trauma in their life, I'm not saying forget the trauma and create another emotion. I'm saying that the person who's willing to go through the emotion and keep working on lowering the volume to it. We have had so many people in this work with brutal pasts, really, really difficult pasts, do the work, and finally they reach that point where they just break free from the emotion. They look back, and I have interviewed enough of them. It's the same thing. They look back at their entire past, and they don't want to change one thing in their past because it brought them to this elegant moment where they're liberated. They see their betrayers, they see their abusers, they have nothing but love for them. Now, the side effect of that, and many times they'll say, it was like my heart blew wide open. They had to pass through the valley of the shadow of darkness to get there. And they just thought, I don't know if I can go any further. And they went one more time. And the body literally was liberated from the past, right? Because the trauma is not just in the brain. The trauma is stored emotionally in the body. So you want to take the body out of the past, out of the known. What do you think the body's going to say if it's been conditioned to be the mind? The unknown is a scary place. You step out into the unknown, you're going to be unprepared for that trauma. You don't know how it's going to happen. And so the person keeps clinging to the known. But when the person finally overcomes the emotion, the body literally is freed from the chains of the past. The side effect of that is seeing the past from a greater level of consciousness. Lo and behold, there goes the suicidal tendencies, there goes the dysfunction, there goes the irritable bowel syndrome. That was because the body was still living in that past event by living by the same emotion. So the research on memory is kind of fascinating, and I've studied it enough. The way we recount the past is not the way it happened, even if you absolutely think you remember it being that way. So we don't have the same brain as we did when we were 8 years old or 12 years old or 20 years old. We have a different brain. We have a completely different brain. So the fabrication of the story for many people, they embellish the story and make it seem even worse than what it was. But what you're saying is, I changed in those moments, and from a biological standpoint, I haven't been able to change since. So let me tell you why it's been so hard for me to change. And the story becomes dramatized or embellished. And the person works them up, fire themselves into this emotional froth, and then fires and wires the same circuits in the brain, and they're actually reaffirming their limitation. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I think we're just taking too long, right? So 50% of that story isn't even the truth. It means, in a sense, we're reliving a miserable life that we never even had, and we don't want. But the unknown, people would rather cling to their suffering. This is not a judgment. We all do this. We'd rather stay in the known than take a chance in the unknown, because those emotions of survival are saying what? Run from the unknown. The unknown is a scary place. So now the unknown, you got to come up against that moment where you're going to actually leave that behind and step into the unknown. This is not a intellectual process. This is David and Goliath. There's a battle going on where the body keeps wanting to go back to its familiar state because it's subconsciously been conditioned to be the mind and stay in the known.
Usually happiness exists as part of the play of opposites. You experience the happiness because something makes you happy, and then that thing that made you happy either leaves you, or the very thing that made you happy suddenly makes you unhappy. Marriage, for example. Or a relationship. Before you start living together, you're happy. When you start living together, you're unhappy. So, if it's not happy, what are we talking about? If you let go of thinking and remain as the awareness, then there is, in that awareness emanates a certain peace, alive peace, joy, peace, a peaceful, joyful sense of aliveness. Inner peace may be a better word than happiness, but one would have to add to it, it's an alive peace. It's not the peace of having deadened yourself to emotions or anything like that. It's an alive, intensely alive peace. You can sense it, even if it's only just a glimpse right now. Surrender thought. And of course, right now, if you're not thinking about the problems of your life, there are no problems in this moment. There's only a sense of beingness or aliveness. And that is the connectedness with being. And so you transcend the opposites between happiness and unhappiness.
To overcome the body takes a will that's greater than the program, to no longer get up and run through the same routine that you do every day. And your body wants to, in the middle of meditation, saying, quit, I'm too tired, you got too many texts, you got too many emails, you got too many things to do. The body's been programmed to get up and go. And you say, wait a second here. We're not going anywhere until I get clear on who I want to be today. And every time you execute that will that's greater than the program, people say, oh, I can't meditate. Actually, you're doing it right. Actually, that's why it's hard, because
doing it.
You're actually, that is the process right there. There's no such thing as a bad meditation.
Yeah.
What you're doing is actually exactly what you need to do. And every time you do that, you become conscious that you go unconscious. That's how you actually develop the skill of consciousness. It's not being conscious, it's catching yourself when you go unconscious.
Yeah.
And people, if they can see that.
Thinking is the unconscious, essentially.
Right.
Conscious is connecting to everything, which is in the space of nothingness, really.
But there's a journey to get there.
Yeah.
And if you're patient with yourself and you see that as a victory, like, you start getting aroused, you start getting frustrated, you think, I can't do this. And you go, no.
Yeah.
We're not going to quit here. That would be me getting up as the same person. I'm curious, what's on the other side of this frustration? You settle your body back down into the present moment. You unfold back into that eternal space. I'm telling you, every time you do that, it's a victory. You're telling the body it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. And it actually turns out that the body starts liberating energy. It starts liberating energy, but like an unbridled stallion, it goes, oh, really? You think that's all? You think that's all you have? Watch this. And then it starts bringing up memories of the past and all of that just to feel an emotion. And if you're aware that it's doing that and you settle it down, you're taming the animal. Yeah. You're teaching it. You're teaching it how to change its state, right? And guaranteed, if you keep doing that, you walk out in your life, I guarantee you'll be less responsive and reactionary to everyone and everything. So in 7 days, we see that not only there are dramatic biological changes to suggest that the person for an environment, but it goes for the majority of people that immerse themselves in going all in. And what does that mean? A different environment. They're in a ballroom. I've been to thousands of ballrooms. There's nothing really exciting in a ballroom. What's exciting in a ballroom? They all look the same. But the data suggests that they're in a whole new environment. Where is that taking place? It's taking place from within the person.
Closed-eyed internal world is everything.
When you open, fulfillment is when you're satisfied because you are fully developing your deepest desires and your character. Fulfillment's very different than happiness, everybody. Happiness comes and goes. Happiness is fleeting. Happiness is like the waves in an ocean, or the waves on Lake Michigan, the Great Lakes here in the United States, which is where I grew up, on Lake Michigan. The waves, they come and they go, right? That's happiness. It comes and it goes. It rolls in and out of your life, and oftentimes it feels like it's out of your control. Fulfillment is the ocean or the Great Lakes itself. Fulfillment is something way deeper. And fulfillment is about integrity and meaning. And the fact that when you have integrity and meaning in your life, you are fulfilled, you are satisfied, because you are fulfilling and fully developing your deepest desires and your character. And this is important, and I'm going to really hammer these words around meaning and, more importantly, integrity. If I had to pick one word that was important when it comes to you deepening your level of fulfillment with your whole life, the word is integrity. Now, this was brand new to me. You know, I always thought about fulfillment like, oh, find your joy, find your passion, find your purpose, like then you'll be fulfilled. Do things that you love, you'll be fulfilled. It actually has more to do with integrity, which is really cool. And, you know, when I explain why integrity is so important, it's also going to illuminate all the places in your life where you're not fulfilled, because I guarantee you, the places in your life where you're missing fulfillment are also lacking personal integrity. You're not operating consistently with what you care about. You're not operating with integrity in terms of your values. You're not spending your time, your energy, and your resources on what truly aligns with you from an integrity standpoint. And so that's why we're going to continue to hammer this word integrity, okay? And that's great because when you start to think about cultivating personal integrity and how that translates to more fulfillment in your life, it's going to make that fulfillment something that you can control. It's going to make it deeply personal. It's going to make it something that you can move the needle on. It puts the locus of control within your reach. Let me talk about the two mistakes that everybody makes, okay, when it comes to fulfillment. And this is why fulfillment in some areas of your life are out of reach right now. The number one mistake that we make, if you're struggling with fulfillment in any area of your life, is that you're not living according to your own values. You know, I think we've all gone through those periods of our lives where we are drinking too much, or we're spending too much money, or we're hanging out with the wrong people, or we're making unhealthy choices. And you know deep down inside that this is not what you want to be doing. It's not what you should be doing. But because you are not living based on your own values, you don't respect yourself. There's no way you are going to live a fulfilled life if at the base level, you don't respect the choices that you're making. So can you identify an area of your life right now, either in the chat or in the journal function in the app, an area of your life where you are not living according to your own values? I see health coming up for people. I'm sure if you think about how you're spending your money, or whether or not you're saving money, you're not aligned with your values. Maybe you're doing work. I see productivity. I see exercise. So if you're not living according to your own values, this is one reason why you're not going to be fulfilled in your life. The second thing is that you spend your time and your resources on things that actually don't matter to you. You're spending your time and your resources on things that don't matter to you at the deepest level. These are the two big mistakes that we all make. And the good news here is that these are mistakes that you can easily identify, that you can address. And when you do, you take control back and you will amp up the level of fulfillment that you feel. I'm going to say this again. Fulfillment is not the same thing as happiness. Fulfillment is meaning and integrity. And that's why habit number one and building a foundation is about values, because you will only find fulfillment, true, lasting, deep fulfillment, everybody, if you are following your values like a compass, not your mood. You got to follow your values and let that be your compass. That's how you build the proper foundation. And so what does that mean? What does that mean, everybody? Well, it means you got to figure out what matters to you, okay? And then you must develop the simple discipline to spend your time and energy on things, people, experiences that align with what matters to you. Living with integrity to what matters to you is the secret of fulfillment. And I think, I've alluded to this earlier, but, I can think about times in my life when either what I was doing for work or what I was doing with my free time did not align with my values.
The sense of being an outsider is also something that I have had throughout my life. And the sense of not belonging here, watching my parents being engaged in continuous conflict, not because they were bad people, they did what they did, and they loved me as best they could, and they did what they did as a reflection of their state of consciousness at that time, which was a normal state of consciousness, egoic state of consciousness. But I sometimes felt, how did I get here? Somehow, there must have been a mistake. it's often outsiders. Feeling an outsider on the one hand seems a terrible limitation that you can't participate as much. On the other hand, it's a great opportunity because some of the most creative people in the world have been outsiders. They did not fit in. Misfits is the English word. Misfits. Now, the friendships I had when I was a child, and that's another interesting thing. I had a friend, one of my friends was severely physically disabled, and nobody else wanted to be friends with him because of that, and he was probably my closest friend. And the other one was so weird that nobody wanted to talk to him. But he became my friend, so they were outsiders too. And but the interesting fact here, as you know, I couldn't believe it when they told me that there are people here from 70 countries. It seems almost unbelievable, but it's true. I saw the list. 70 countries. And you may find, I'm sure you will find, quite often, you can feel a bond, or you have more in common with many of the people who are here than you have with your own people in your own country at home who are not going through any spiritual awakening, who are still totally conditioned, 100% conditioned by their culture. So you feel a connectedness here with other humans that transcends culture and conditioning and all the silly political stuff. It transcends that. And this is a wonderful thing. So to some extent, you can now connect with people even if you don't always see them physically. You might live, I don't know whether you live in a big city or a small village.
A small city.
Small city.
Small city, yeah.
Yeah. What city?
Innsbruck in Austria.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Nice, very nice. I don't know how many people in Innsbruck are.
120,000.
And how many of those are awakening? We don't know. We don't know, of course. But this helps, I believe, being here and feeling you are not alone. You are connected. So this should be a help. For the rest, you just have to accept that this is how it is. And no matter how hard you try to fit in on the normal level, you probably won't, nor do you have to. So I know there are many people here who feel that and be happy with it.
Yeah.
But don't make it into some kind of superiority, because the ego can always creep in. Before you know it, there's always a back door, and then the ego is back in. So you could go from feeling bad about being an outsider to suddenly feeling, okay, I'm an outsider because I'm superior. And then, so we have to be careful, don't go there. So that's just how it is. If you probably would not be here if you had not been felt like an outsider for many years.
Yeah.
So it worked.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. To master your thinking, to shape reality, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
How can people begin to attract the life that they want?
To bring abundance into your life, you have to be cultivating an abundant mindset. And so a really easy way to start is to list the things that you're grateful